straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get the show started. Today on Firstpost, more talking points from the Indian Premier League. It was the VK and DK show at the Indian city of Bengaluru. After his blistering half-century, Virat Kohli sent out a loud message to silence his critics in the post-match interview. And we look ahead to the big clash today between Chennai and Gujarat, finalists of last year's IPL edition, and that's a blockbuster at the Chepauk. Moving to non-cricket stories, what's the mystery surrounding the new poster boy of baseball? Japan's Shohei Otani is creating some buzz, and not the right kind now. But what's the deal with the allegations of theft and gambling that his translator has been charged with? The player speaks out, and news from the Formula One tracks. Is there a dent in the Max Verstappen dominance finally? And what is troubling Lewis Hamilton? More on all of this, but first, Sports 360. We'll start with tennis. Men's world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz has advanced to the round of 16 at the Miami Open. He beat Gael Monfils 6-2, 6-4. Over in the women's round, world number 1 Iga Świątek has crashed out. The Pole was knocked out by Russian Ekaterina Alexandrova in the 4th round clash. And world number 3 Coco Gauff too suffered heartbreak as France's Carolina Garcia beat her in a 3-setter. Over in cricket, Australia announced their schedule for the home summer. The Australia vs India Test Series, or famously known as the Border Gavaskar Trophy, will be a 5-match Test Series this time rather than the usual 4-match series. This will be the first time since 1991-92 that the two sides will battle in a 5-match tour. India's Australia tour will begin on November 22nd at the end of this year, with the first test being held in Perth. In football, South Korean footballer Son Heung-ho has been released by China. This was announced by the South Korean Foreign Ministry yesterday. Son had been detained in China since May 2023. According to China's Foreign Ministry, he was held on the suspicion of accepting bribes. Son is a midfielder playing for Chinese Super League club Shandong Taishan. Argentine forward Angel Di Maria received death threat yesterday. Local media reported that the threat was delivered in a note at his house. Di Maria was threatened with death if he returned to Rosario. This comes a week after Di Maria, who currently plays for the Portuguese club Benfica, said he would like to end his career at his boyhood club Rosario Central. Former Chinese Football Association President Zheng Zhuhuan has been given a life sentence for accepting a bribe worth $11 million. Earlier too, 10 senior leaders and executives of the CFA, including former national team coach Li Tai, were also brought down. And ending with news in Formula One, according to the reports, Red Bull's female employee who complained of inappropriate behavior against her from team principal Christian Horner might go to the employment tribunal. If that happens, private details of the case will all come out in the public domain. Now, if anyone thought that Virat Kohli and T20 don't gel anymore, well, think again. At least that's the clear message that the batter sent out last night. Royal Challengers Bengaluru got over the line against Punjab Kings at home, notching up their first win in the league. It was the VK and DK show. Kohli, of course, starts and Karthik finishes. Let's start with the VK show first. Virat Kohli at Chinnaswamy with a target in sight. There is little else that can keep someone like him away from getting there. And of course, being dropped by Johnny Bairstow off the very second ball of the innings at slips was probably just the wake-up call Virat Kohli needed. He did not, of course, need another reminder to get going, even as wickets fell around him. The track on offer was not the typical belter that you normally associate with Bengaluru's Chinnaswamy Stadium, but you could score if you just kept your head down, which is what the master demonstrated. Even so, 170-odd runs was not going to be much of a challenge. That's what I thought, but the Kings bowling unit made a match of it on that particular track. They pushed RCB quite hard and to the edge. Virat, though, stood tall in this encounter. He scored 77 of 49 deliveries, typical Kohli domination. Those cover drives were exquisite and a treat to watch. And the King made a few loud statements too.
Not a bad start, playing after 2 months and getting into the tournament. They know I play the cover drive well. so they are not going to allow me to hit gaps. I know my name is now attached to just promoting the game in different parts of the world when it comes to T20 cricket. I've still got it, I guess.
Quite a cheeky comment there, and he made quite a few points in that statement that he still is playing T20 cricket at his best. And he took a dig out there at anyone who thought that Virat Kohli and T20 cricket really didn't belong together anymore. Former India coach and cricketer Ravi Shastri, who's had a good relationship, had shared a close bond with Virat Kohli, especially during his time as the coach of the Indian team, had some days back made a comment during commentary that youngsters should be looked at now heading to the World Cup in the Indian squad. Could this be a response to that? And even so, by crediting Rahul Dravid in the same post-match interaction, Kohli spoke of creating moments and memories rather than going after statistics and looking at numbers alone. Virat Kohli gave another reminder that you're always learning. That never stops. And there was, of course, that cute little moment post the match where he was seen making little gestures, looking at his phone, predictably calling up his family. He's a father again now, and it has been quite an emotional ride for Virat Kohli. But before I get into the DK cameo that sealed the deal, a couple of worries for RCB despite that win. The lack of partnerships and pressure slowly building on the other Indian batters. Rajat Patidar, Anuj Rawat, Mahipal Lomror, all talented batters, but maybe the point is to persevere instead of dropping and constant changing. Moving on to Dinesh Karthik, the man who seems to be doing the balancing act pretty well. The man wearing colourful shirts and nailing it as a commentator behind the mic, over on the other side of the fence, seems to have the same touch on the field too. He's looking fabulous and has equally nailed the role as a pinch hitter here in this setup. Which really brings me to the most important point about IPL and how teams manage to win. Proper role definitions. That is the only way you can give a player freedom of expression and the will to execute when he knows what is exactly expected of him. A practice that could pay dividends if delivered across the entire batting lineup. As always, keep following us here on Firstpost for all the latest on the IPL. We're calling it the T20 Summer Storm as we get you the biggest talking points only on Firstpost. Right, let's move on rapidly to the big encounter coming up tonight. In just moments from now, it is going to be Chennai versus Gujarat. Ruturaj Gaikwad versus Shubman Gill, two finalists from last season squaring off at the Chepauk. Will be quite the encounter, this one. A lot of interesting facets to look forward to and face-offs to see. So let's get cracking. First off, it's a proper face-off between the two youngsters and future of Indian cricket. Ruturaj versus Gill. Both captains and opening bats. Both these roles will be tested tonight. In Chepauk, the power play is crucial. How many runs you can amass during the first 10 overs will be critical. So these two will have a lot of pressure to deliver there. And then, of course, you have to speak about the anchor role. It's a battle between local boy and someone who knows these conditions all too well. Sai Sudarshan and Daryl Mitchell. Very different molds. Mitchell can tonk as well as consolidate. But Sai is a steady head too. In fact, he's had a fair run at the IPL for his side Gujarat over the last 2 seasons. Daryl Mitchell, for the price that he was bought for, will be a key batter in Chennai's scheme of things. Over at the bowling, I will have to speak about spinners in Chepauk, even though there are questions of why someone of the quality of Mitchell Santner, who can also throw his bat around, is warming the bench. We know MS and how he never likes changing the 11, so I think we can expect the same, an unchanged side going in. In fact, that is his way of putting the faith on the 11 to perform through the season. Though I wonder who would sit out once Matisha Patirana comes off fit, because Mustafizur Rahman has been brilliant in that opening game. Over to Gujarat, and this is exciting. You already have Sai Kishore, who bowled brilliantly in their opening game, and then Rashid Khan, not looking like the venomous best that he always was. The back injury probably really showing its effects there. And in Chepauk, I would love to see Noor Ahmed come in. Maybe even Jayant Yadav, considering the number of left-handers he might get to bowl at and spin and weave their magic. Speaking of Noor, he's feisty. He has been watching and learning, and in the ranks, he will be gold. So maybe he comes in place of Spencer. So my picks for this matchup then, from Chennai Super Kings, I will have to go with Ravindra Jadeja. Can he be smart with the runs low and also be smart with the runs low down the order, and of course be wily on this track in these conditions with the ball? Quite a handful. If Rashid Khan is the senior most for the Gujarat side, then it has to be Ravindra Jadeja for the hosts in this game. And for Gujarat, my pick is Shubman Gill. It's time for him to deliver something big to have a chance of getting this in the bag. He has had a great start to his captaincy with a win, and now is the time to press on the accelerator. The important bit, of course, for most teams here is to notch up the tough wins at the start before the equations and the must-win calculations all start coming up towards the second phase of the tournament. And going by the theme of hosts winning their home matches, Chennai probably has the edge for this one. Now, the Australian Grand Prix over the weekend gave a reality check not just to the drivers but to their respective teams as well. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz won the Grand Prix down under, and what did that do? It ended Max Verstappen's dominance, but more importantly gave glimpses of what Sainz has to offer. Remember, he's set to leave Ferrari after the end of the current season, and his performance in Bahrain and Melbourne will send out a strong message to teams looking to sign him on. Lewis Hamilton, who had to retire due to engine failure, admitted that he has had the worst start to a season ever. But he too has something to take away from the Australian Grand Prix. A report.
The Formula One 2024 season continues to produce shockers. At the start of the season, it was all about the controversies, but now it's slowly becoming about the results too. After the Bahrain and Saudi Grand Prix, it looked like we might see another Max Verstappen and Red Bull dominated year. But the Australian GP proved that there's more drama in store. This year we're seeing the rise of Ferrari and a first non-Red Bull win. And leading that charge was Carlos Sainz. Sainz, who missed the Saudi GP due to a surgery, put no foot wrong as he finished on top in Melbourne. Verstappen might have retired due to car failure, but nothing can be taken away from Sainz's triumph. Sainz, who was out of contract with Ferrari at the end of 2024, put up a solid show for teams willing to sign him on for the following year. Even a possibility to go back to Red Bull, where he started as a young driver.
I think we want to feel the best pairing that we can at Red Bull Racing, and sometimes you've got to look outside the pool as well. You've had a very fast unemployed driver win today, so the market is reasonably fluid with certain drivers. Based on a performance like that, you couldn't rule any possibility out. So I think we just want to take the time.
Red Bull too would be aiming to strengthen their side. Verstappen has a long contract ahead of him, but his teammate Sergio Perez runs out of contract after the end of 2024. And if he doesn't get an extension, Sainz might possibly be paired with Verstappen for the next season. Red Bull aren't the only team in the running. Mercedes are looking to fill the Lewis Hamilton void, and a straight swap deal with Ferrari could very well be ideal. Speaking of Hamilton, the 7-time world champion who's set to leave Mercedes at the end of the 2024 season might have started this year expecting to script a fairy tale one. But that seems too far-fetched at this point at least, after the opening 3 races. When Verstappen retired at the Australian GP, Hamilton would have been hungry to capitalize on the opportunity. But he experienced a similar fate as his Mercedes engine also failed. Hamilton was eliminated in Q2 at Albert Park after power unit failure. And after 7th and 9th positions in Bahrain and Saudi, this only added salt to his wounds.
It's the worst start to a season I've ever had. It's worse than 2009. It's tough on the spirit for everyone in the team when so much work has been going on over the winter. You come in excited, driven and motivated, with the mindset you're going to be fighting for the wins. Then that's not the case. Then you think, okay, maybe 2nd or 3rd, and that's not the case. And it cascades a bit further down and you go through the motions.
But despite the poor run so far, the champions still had something to take away from the Australian GP. After the end of the 2024 season, Hamilton would be joining Ferrari for the 2025 season and will be with the Ferrari setup. The only team that has challenged Red Bull so far, and the Australian Grand Prix result is the biggest example of that. It wasn't just Carlos Sainz winning the Grand Prix, but also Charles Leclerc finishing 2nd. And even in the Saudi and Bahrain races, Ferrari had at least one driver finish in the top 3. So clearly, these are good signs for Hamilton, who hasn't won a single race since December 2021. A move to Ferrari next season might fulfill his desire for another World Championship title. Nevertheless, the third race of 2024 has set it up perfectly for the coming one in Japan.
Now, there are heroes who come out of nowhere and they have a great story to tell. Either it's the quintessential rags to riches narrative, heartwarming, tugs at the heartstrings, or it is the blitzkrieg of a story, a super talent that has stormed onto the scene, so you can't really help but take notice of this. But the star I'm about to talk about is someone who's everywhere now. He's on newspaper headlines. There are questions asked on who he's married to. There's a mural. He's a mural on massive buildings in New York. He is Shohei Otani, or Showtime as his calling card goes. The last few months have been only about Otani. At 6 feet 5 inches tall, the 29-year-old athlete from Japan, and not any athlete, but one of the most famous Japanese athletes in the world currently, has been the driving force, the subject across the sporting landscape. First, it was his historic 10-year deal with Major League Baseball, or the MLB side, Los Angeles Dodgers, that created a huge uproar. Reason? Well, it was worth $700 million, and it isn't just the money associated with it, but also because at that point, Otani was 29. No baseball player at 29 makes that truckload of money, and at such a young age, he became one of the most expensive athletes in the world. So I get the buzz then. That was many months ago, but his popularity only kept growing with each passing day. Otani is a pitcher currently playing for Los Angeles Dodgers, but if I can compare athletes from different sports, Otani is as popular as LeBron James or Tiger Woods in the United States, if not more. That speaks volumes about his fandom. To think it was not this way from the start. Otani's career, of course, began in Japan at the age of 18 with Nippon Ham Fighters. After spending 5 years in Japan, Otani came to the United States. His arrival at Los Angeles came at a modest price of $0.5 million. And after spending 5 years there, his stock price rose to, of course, $700 million. That's the rise of Shohei Otani for you. And that's where the twist started. The more the chatter around him grew, greater was the urge to know more about him. And the craze was not just restricted to his baseball prowess, but also seeped into his personal life. Early in the month, Otani broke the hearts of many of his female followers. I mean, look at him. Are you even surprised? Many thought of Otani is one of Japan's most eligible bachelors. But breaking that myth, Otani announced that he's married by Instagram. I guess a lot of the female fan mails probably prompted this announcement. But similar to the mystery surrounding Otani, the identity of his wife too remained one. For a while only though. That mystery didn't last too long. The speculations ended when the Los Angeles Dodgers shared a photo of Otani just some weeks ago, standing next to, quote-unquote, the most eligible bachelor in Japan was a former Japanese basketball player, Mamiko Tanaka. So the cards that Otani had held on to were rapidly unraveling. And we get it. With that kind of popularity, it's hard to really keep things too private. And while many thought everything is just perfect in Otani's life, came a series of controversies that has only intensified the mystery surrounding Shohei Otani. And he's caught right in the middle of it. Otani's visit to South Korea was marred by a bomb threat. Reports suggested that the target was Shohei Otani himself. Though it was all cleared and no bombs were found eventually, but that raised a lot of alarm bells on Otani's life. Was it just a hoax, or was someone really actually after his life? And even before the news about the bomb threat could die down, a new controversy regarding betting and gambling has now cropped up. Epe Mizuhara, Otani's longtime friend and translator, is believed to have stolen money from Otani's account. Around $4.5 million was paid out of Otani's account for illegal gambling. A massive debt that the translator and friend was supposedly under, which is what this covered. Mizuhara was fired for the act, but the suspicion of Otani's involvement couldn't be denied. And after staying quiet all this while, Otani finally broke his silence.
Just on a personal note, I am very saddened and shocked that someone whom I trusted has done this. Up until a couple of days ago, I didn't know that this was happening. To summarize how I'm feeling right now, I'm just beyond shocked. Ippei Mizuhara has been stealing money from my account and has told lies. I never bet on baseball or any other sport, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf, and I have never gone through a bookmaker to bet on sports. And the season is going to start, so I'm going to obviously let my lawyers handle matters from here on out, and I'm completely assisting in all investigations that are taking place right now.
He says he's shocked and has been unaware of this happening for a while now, but we don't have, of course, much of a choice but to believe him. There are two alternates, though, that we are faced with here. One is of a very young and naive baseball player who possibly put a lot of faith on his friend first and did not feel the need to look over his shoulder too often, leading to him being completely in the dark about this big scam. The other scenario involves a rather dark possibility of Otani trying to cover his tracks. We will, of course, go with the former for now. Even so, the investigations are still underway, as we hear, so let's wait for the law to give the final verdict on this one. Time for Last Serve. Today we bring you pictures of a sailing Grand Prix in New Zealand, where it was not smooth sailing for the Australian team in particular, who crashed during the course of the race. Take a look. That wraps up Firstpost for us today. But of course, thanks for joining in. I'll see you again tomorrow with some more fresh updates and stories from the world of sports. Take care.